amazing, and welcome to this week's edition of Behind the Curtain with Ade and Ran. And today we have Parkour Practitioner Yao. Hi, Yao.
Hello. Thank you for having me, guys.
Thank you
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining. I have your bio here. I'm going to read it.
Yep.
Okay. Yao, originally from France, indulges a passion for sport, physical expression, and movement. After 10 years of Taekwondo, he discovered the Yamakasi,
yeah.
Okay, Kasi movie, and set out to try to face his fears. Upon moving to London, he continued his training, qualifying to coach art du déplacement parkour and free running, dedicating himself to teaching inclusively and creatively. He is known globally for his love of people and his infectious energy. With a keen interest in mind-body training, he co-created the Esprit Concrete method that combines talking therapy with art du déplacement. With 15 years experience of coaching people from all walks of life, performing and choreographing, he heads up coaching at Esprit Concrete to enable invigorating, reflective, and lifespan informed training that empowers even the most novel movers to feel more connected to their sense of self.
Yep.
So, Yamakasi,
yes.
Yamakasi. Of course, we all want to know what that is, because it inspired you in your journey.
Yeah, it did. So the Yamakasis are a group of several people, 9 originally, that started art du déplacement. So art du déplacement is what you know now as parkour, kind of. So parkour is kind of a dilution of art du déplacement. So they started this, and they made 2 movies, I think, 2 or more, I'm not sure. But the first movie was Yamakasi, Les Fils du Vent, and it was really popular in France. So I watched it, and yeah, so nothing came out of it. I was like, okay, just a movie. And then a few years later, I saw several documentary about how they train and what they do in the city, how they help the youth and everything. I'm like, oh, it's actually a thing. So I was like, maybe I can do that. And at that time, for all my life, I was really scared of things. So yeah, I was really scared of everything. And I saw this guy jumping from like 2 meters high, leaping across gaps. I'm like, ooh, wow, okay. But yeah, so the Yamakasi, they live in France, Évry and Lys, and some in Sarcelles. If you know, it's around Paris. Yeah, I had the luck to be able to train with them as well, do some workshop with them, and yeah. So yeah, Yamakasi, look for it. It was a big change in mentality for me. Oh, we can't hear you, Ade.
It's a documentary?
No, it's actually a movie. It is a movie, and after the movie, they did several documentaries with French TV to explain the art.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so did you live in Paris for a while?
Yes, I used to live in Paris. I actually grew up in Paris. So I was born in Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, and then moved to Paris when I was 6 or 5. And then from 5 to 26, I lived in and around Paris. But yeah, that's where I discovered the movie, let's say, not really the practice, but the movie. And I attempted attempted to attempted to train the way they did. But yeah, there was not a lot of information about what they were doing actually. If you didn't live in their city, then it was really hard to access their knowledge or their training. So I went out and did what I could see in the movie, but I was scared of heights. So I was like, all right, let me try to do a compromise and not jump from too high. But then I went out 3 times. 2 out of 3, I twisted my ankle, and then I was like, all right, that's probably not for me. So I gave up on training the yamakasi when I was in France. And actually, when I arrived in London, next to my house was a club. So I was like, oh, a parkour club. I was like, oh, people call it parkour. Okay, let me try it. And then that was it. I was hooked up. Yeah.
What's the difference, or is there a difference between what some people call free running and some people call parkour?
So, all right, this discussion is, it's so from what I gathered, free running started as English name for parkour. So people, so it came up from a documentary. I don't know if it was Jump Britain or Jump London.
Jump London.
Yeah, Jump London, and they needed something that sounds more friendlier than parkour for English speakers. So they used free running, and it's Sébastien Foucan that started it. He was in charge of the documentary, so we called it free running. But I think it would be better to ask him. Yeah, and then he called it like this, but then he wasn't doing parkour because parkour was David Bell's thing. So it started doing free running, and free running is like free expression of self, let's say. But yeah, to be honest, personally, I don't see any difference in people practicing free running and parkour. Like in actual fact, maybe they say something different, but the practice itself, I think, is exactly the same. In the way that it's really movement orientated. It's like, what can you do? But I don't actually practice free running or parkour. What I do is esprit concrete, but it's based on art du déplacement. Okay. So the hardest one to say. So yeah. So then art du déplacement is less linked to the movement. It's more linked to what you can gain with the movement. So the movement becomes a tool and not a goal, if you see what I mean. So for example, the way they started the yamakasi was by challenging each other. So it was really strength related. It's like, oh, I want to be strong to be able to help my family, for example. So they started lifting rock and say, okay, can you go around the lake with this rock? Can you climb up these stairs by jumping? So these kind of challenges. And then the goal was really to become stronger. So that's this mentality that I'm training with. So the movement for me has never been important in some aspect. It's been always like a tool to gain something. And that's what we teach in our classes, Esprit Concrete. It's really like, okay, so we can use this movement to gain this. And how are we going to do it? And what do you gain? And how much do you need it? So, yeah. So that's art du déplacement. It's what I practice.
Yeah. Can you give, because our there's some viewers that probably don't know what parkour is, free run, or any of it. Could you give a breakdown of 3 of them, or I guess parkour and free running would be lumped into the same thing? And
yeah, I think they all based on using movement. So it's just using your movement to go places, let's say, or to, I don't like to say that because I don't think it's true. I've never seen anyone using parkour to go somewhere if it's not for TV or YouTube or anything like this. So the definition people give, I don't agree with it. I think parkour and free running is really to have fun, become stronger, more agile, being more able, let's say. But I don't think it's linked to being able to go from A to B, for example, because that's what people usually say. It's like, oh, going from A to B in the most effective or efficient way. But I've never seen that happening.
When I trained, well, that one training session I had with Yao many, many years ago, what I found really interesting was we met at a tube station and I was expecting to go somewhere. Yet we started where we were, on the wall right next to the station. And you begin to see things that you can move across. Can you talk to us about how you view the world as a movement parkour practitioner?
So I view the world as opportunities. So I try to know myself well. I think I know myself well now, and then I try to see what do I need to improve if I want to improve. So then I see the world as possibilities, like, oh, this will challenge me in some ways, or this will feel like I would like to do that, and then it becomes just like options. Yeah, so you have a lot of options, like, oh, there's this structure, which is a rail, and then there's a wall next to it. How far is it? How high? How would I feel when I do this? Then you can try to picture yourself doing these things. So is it a jump? Is it a vault? Is it just walking on the rail? Is it a climb? Is it a climb down, climb up? So there's a lot of things experience you get from training. The more you train, obviously, the more capable you become. And then the more capable you become, the more you can see the world in like options. So the goal of the training is really to reduce the limitation and get yourself to a level where you feel like, oh, I can see it, I can do it. But yeah. So how do you remember how you felt starting the class?
I was excited. I mean, the first thing you did was putting us to the wall where we were, and there was a little bit of, at the bottom was a brick, is to go across the wall like that. And I found that was really, that we're starting straight away. And I loved that part of it.
Oh, okay.
Then I think we crossed the street and there was a bench and we jumped onto that.
Okay, yeah.
And you begin to see ways of going around and over things that maybe you didn't see before just walking.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and there was, I think you jumped over a kind of, two paving stones and you made it a thing of one foot to the other foot.
Okay.
But normally we would just walked, but it's how I felt really like excited about movement.
Oh, okay. Nice. Good. So the excitation will come. I mean, hopefully, if I teach it, I want people to be excited about discovering capacity. It's like, oh, it's a new world. It's like you have a power, but you just discovered it. So what can you do with it? Yeah. And I tell my students, it's like everyone has a superpower, but it's just like you need to be able to understand how to activate it. Yeah. But maybe you need the situation to put you into the realization, oh, actually, I have that power. So I think parkour or esprit concrete method or parkour or art du déplacement or free running is, I think, the perfect tool. It's the perfect tool for that because you have rules outside. It's like, oh, you're on the pavement. What you do on the pavement, you walk. And that's it, really. Or you run to take the bus, maybe. But then we change that and say, okay, so this road is that wide. Can you do it in 2 steps? From one side to the pavement to the other one. Can you do it in 2 steps? Or maybe if you can't, let's say 3. And then you start thinking, oh, actually, the road here is just a tool for me to get better at something. And then you start getting excited. It's like, oh, this is powerful. So that's what we try to get, and we try to keep this excitement throughout training. Actually, it's like the more you do, the more you're capable of doing, and the more you can see what you're missing. So it's like you're always a beginner in some extent.
Ade and I have spoken about when you're in creative endeavors to the child mind.
Okay.
Could you talk about the child mind and just being free in relation to parkour?
That's I think that's a really hard subject. That's a really hard subject because I don't associate freedom with child. I think the freedom comes with knowledge, and the child, they don't have freedom. They don't have the knowledge. They have a sense of what is around them, but it's not complete. That's why they come up with new ways to see things. It's like there's a Chinese saying that says, in the village, everyone knew it was impossible, but an idiot came from outside and did it. So meaning the guy didn't have the knowledge, but he came and did it because everyone knew it was possible. So with the knowledge comes restriction, and the idiot who came took this partial knowledge and did something that people didn't think was possible. So I think that's the same thing. It's not really freedom. It's just like, oh, I don't know what it is. I'm going to try, but I don't know what's going to happen. So I would say freedom is the freedom of choice. It's like, oh, I know what's happening. I'm going to choose to do it. That's what I would call freedom. Otherwise, it's a fluke. And I think creativity from the kids comes as a fluke. I don't know if you follow me.
Yes.
Yeah. So creativity and freedom, I don't think are the same.
How do we tap into this creativity?
By forgetting rules, I would say, because there's a lot of rules that govern us, like laws, rules of society, science, what we see in movies, what we see around us. So there are all these rules that put us in like a soft prison, let's say. And most of the time, it's really hard to see that you're in that soft prison. But how to get away from it is by, I would say, rebelling softly. Yeah, so it's not like, oh, these rules are keeping me this way, I'm going to go against them. It's like, no. So there's this rule. What does it really say? So in my classes, for example, I give rules, but they are very open. And everything that is not against the rule is acceptable. So that means I'm going to say, for example, so we had 2 weeks ago, we had a game with a school that we teach. And basically they were with the crash mat, and they were supposed 4 of them to carry the crash mat from one wall to the other. Yeah, and the crash mat shouldn't touch the floor. And then I changed the rule to say, okay, now one of you has to be following the same rule as the crash mat. So that means coming from one wall to the other without touching the floor. And then they had to come up with how to do that. So they all started to put that person on the crash mat, but then they were struggling and the crash mat was touching the floor and stuff like this. But just following this rule, you can have a lot of things, a lot of true answer, real answer, correct answer, for example. So then we started thinking about it and say, okay, but why did you do that? If the crash mat is touching the floor each time, why don't you change? And they were like, but there's no other option. And then someone said, oh, maybe one of us can carry the person. And then we went again. They did that. And then we changed the rule again. I know this was the same rule. This time, let's try to go faster. And I gave a reward for the last one. Okay, reward. It's not really a punishment. It's so if you're good at something, that means you're probably working less than someone who's not good. So the person is working more if they're going to get something to work even more. Yeah. So the goal is to make everyone get stronger. So I don't call it a punishment. I call it a reward or forfeit. So, and then they had to find out other idea to go faster. So what they did, instead of thinking, oh, we have to stay with the mat, the person carrying the others went to the wall and then touched the wall and then came back to help. That's just a creation of interpretation of the rule. And I didn't say you're not allowed to do that, so it's allowed. So that's the way I encourage creativity by having rules that are open, but then you remove degrees of liberty. Then people will have to come up with new ways to see things. And the really important thing that we do in Esprit Concrete is to try to have these kind of skills relatable to life. Because that's the reason that I said that I don't say that I do parkour, because if it's fixed, if it's targeting the movement, if the goal is the movement, then you can't really relate it to anything else. It's like, oh, I want to be able to do this move. What do I need to do this move? Then you have to be like, oh, I need to put my hand here and there, and that's not helping. But if it's a concept that we're working, then that concept, we can keep it for anything. So yeah, creativity is a really big concept that we try to encourage people to do. And so yeah, limitation of freedom, basically.
I've seen you in some of your posts where you've tried a mood and it's not been successful.
Yeah.
Then you try again, then you try again, and you try again.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about the ideas that we have about success and failure?
Oh, okay. So when you said successful, I was like, I'm not sure it wasn't successful. So what you're talking about is the movement wasn't successful. But for me, the success would be the learning. So did I learn what I wanted to learn? So for example, during lockdown, I had Aho, so he's 2 now. And it was really hard to find time to train. So I had to train readiness, for example. And to do that, I just needed to make sure that I wasn't messing around, basically. I had 30 minutes to train. What can I do to get ready now and then improve from that my 30-minute training? So I had to come up with ways to force myself or convince myself that all the fear I had were just fear and it wasn't justified. And then from there, decide, okay, I'm going to do it. So basically, it's like deciding to do it. Yes or no? Yes? Okay, let's go. So the success, it's just a lens. You look at the movement, I look at the concept. If you look at the movement, then I don't think I'm ever successful in a lot of things because I don't care, and I don't think it's going to bring me much as a person to be successful in this. But the issue with parkour or free running or art du déplacement is that it's the issue, and the best thing about it as well, is like you can do whatever you want. And because you can do whatever you want, you can stay the same person for your whole life training this without evolving. Because I'm really lazy and I don't like to do much. So I'm going to go to the high success rate, for example. So it's like, what is going to be the fastest way for me to learn that, for example? And let's say I'm not really organized, and if organized or how to say, or persistent. I don't like to do things a lot, so I would go for the high rate. And if I have to repeat it a lot, I'd be like, oh, okay, I have enough. I'm going to go home and then try again tomorrow, for example. But doing this, for example, I wouldn't gain from being more persistent. Like my perseverance wouldn't increase. It will be just me being me. But the goal of my training is me being the better me at the end of the training. So obviously, the more you do something, the better you get at it. So that means there's still improvement physically and mentally because you've been active. But the goal for me is to have the knowledge of what has been gained, for example. Yeah. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So what was the question? Was it about perception again of success, or? Yeah.
And I love the way you put that in regards to the move may not have been completed, but what you learned was of paramount importance. Is that was successful every single time, even though the move may not have been completed. And I guess as well there, sometimes you may even learn more when the move has not been successful than when you have succeeded in the move.
Definitely. And we actually try to teach this as well. So teaching failure in the way that the movement is a failure. And people call it bailing, because so that's my philosophy. If you're confident failing, then succeeding would be just a bonus. So that's why we try to train people to get confident, not succeeding whatever task the world would want them to do. If they're confident and comfortable doing that, the rest will be a breeze, like a piece of cake all the time. So that's a really good. That's the training method I think we try to involve people in.
How much attention goes into really knowing your body and what your limitations are? Or is, considering overtraining or knowing when to rest and things like that?
So again, we don't really put attention to this because the movement. So I call for me, I think movement is body language. Yeah, if your mind thinks something, your body will tend to make it real. Yeah, so if you think, oh, I'm tired, I'm going to get injured if I carry on, and you carry on, your body will be like, yes, you're right, you're going to get injured, and then you start stiffen up, and then you get injured. But if you think, oh, I'm tired, but I'm really motivated to do this thing, then your body will be like, oh yeah, you're right, and then you're going to start loosen up. Yeah, so your body will tend to do what your mind is believing. If you have a doubt, that's probably going to lead to injury. If you don't have a doubt, you're going to be safe. Yeah, it's always been proven. Never saw, except something goes in your way and then trips you, then yes, that's obviously going to happen. But it's always the mind that direct the body. It's not the opposite. So even if someone is tired and I ask them, oh, can you do one more? And they say, oh, yeah, I can do if you want. I'd be like, yeah, no. It's not for me that you're doing it. It's for you. If you think you can do one more, then decide and go for it. If you want to do it for me, I would say, no, don't do it, because you're not going to gain from it. So the knowing your body is not something we prioritize. It's really knowing what you want. That is the priority. Like if you want something, and a lot of the work we do with our clients is that actually it's like, is your mind aligned to what you want, or is it aligned to something that someone else wants? Because it's always like this. It's always there's a lot of people that are swayed by society, and society guides their life, for example. So it's like there are all the rules about how to behave, how not to be in public, what to do if you're in a gym or stuff like this, that people unconsciously have and they follow, but maybe it's not the best option for them as a person. So then they follow these rules that go against what they really want. So we try to tune into what someone really wants, and then from there we try to work on. So it's really the mind that controls the body, and being tired or not doesn't mean much, I would say.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, because especially the part about that maybe unconscious conditioning that we get from society, from our parents and things like that it's running, that I should, we even check on Google, should I?
Yeah, exactly.
How long should I sleep? When is long enough to, work out, and how many days, and how many, rather than it coming from ourselves. Is that a process is that a way of being that has always been with you, or is it something that you've learned through this practice? And is it something that came gradually for you?
I think I've always been like this, in the way that so when I was I think was 8 or 9, I wanted, okay, so it's going to be weird, but I wanted to control electricity when I was 8 or 9, 8 or 9. And so I was thinking, and I saw a documentary. I was like, oh, we are made of stardust. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. So if we're made of stardust, then everything is made of stardust. So I can control everything. That's the logic, yeah? So I was like, okay, so how can I control stardust? How can I control electricity? And then I was like, okay, but if I want to control something that is outside of me, I need to start controlling me first. So I started like trying to control my muscles, trying to control the feeling I have in my body and stuff like this. And I think from there, I started being a little bit isolated and thinking that humans were not really valuable or great in the way they were made. And I tried to like understand concept most of the time. So I was alone in my reflections, and I think that's where I get the sense of not following rules, or not following society. So being judgmental of what is in front of my eyes. So when I was kid, I was like on the side. I'd say I wasn't following trends or doing what the other kids were doing, because I wanted something else. And I think that's from that I can see concept more than movement, let's say. So yeah, I think it's innate. It's not something that I work on.
You talked about doubt.
Yeah.
And sometimes, what happens when you come across a student and they have this fear or doubt about completing a particular move?
Mm-hmm.
How would you work with that person to go through to accomplish that move?
So first, I would relate it to something in their lives. So the move is just a demonstration of a behavior they have. So if they can't do it, it's because they behave in the same way outside of the movement. So there's one move that I like to practice, that I like to teach, is the cat pass or conch. And it's basically you put your hand on whatever object and you go head first, and then you try to get your knees in between your arms and then land somewhere. This move is really good for commitment. And a lot of people have commitment issue, and knowing that they are capable of sustaining whatever is coming. And in general, I mean, not in general, fear comes from lack of knowledge as well. So first, related to someone, to something in their lives, and then secondly, try to get them to have more knowledge on the movement, and then relate it back to, once they improve on that, relate it back to something in their lives. So again, the movement is a tool to be able to understand how the behavior. Yeah, and once the behavior is fixed, the issue with the movement will disappear as well.
So it's like, so we're doing a particular task, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
We look at the behaviors that we are already doing.
Yeah.
And by looking at that will allow us to move beyond whatever the task we would like to achieve.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen in one class.
Yes.
So basically, the first thing is identifying what's happening. So once you can identify what's happening, then you can work on it, start working on it. But working on it doesn't mean that, oh, you're going to work on it and you're going to have the movement. You can have the movement, but doesn't mean that it's actually learned. Yeah. So that's why I don't focus on movement at all, because you can cheat it kind of in some ways. Because of flexibility or whatever, but you can cheat the movement. But the intention will still be there. Even if you can cheat the movement, you might be like, high risk of injuries because you did this. But if you change the behavior, then you don't need to cheat the movement. You can just go for it because you believe it's true.
Yeah. It's very resonates with me a whole lot, everything that you're saying, because I see it in so many ways in my own life, and how it manifests in different, like I do the martial arts, and in one of them, I do Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu, and in Jiu-Jitsu I'm fairly new at, and I want to get better really fast, and I have this competitive thing. And then there's this thing of me where wanting approval and wanting to show that I'm doing it. So the other day when I'm sparring, there is my whole body, I'm getting out of breath. I'm getting very exhausted, and I keep wondering why, because I train almost every day. And meanwhile, I'm very tense. I'm exerting myself, like really trying to win. And then when the person's on top of me, I'm starting to, like, I was winning the position. And then the only reason I gave up that position was because I was exhausted. And then my coach was giving instructions. So then that added more panic that, I'm not good enough. They're seeing I'm not doing. Yeah. And, what do I do? And so all of that increased this level of and this sort of panic. Yeah. And then like the movements became very came from this panic state until I just gave up and let the person get me in a submission so that I would end the
the sparring.
yeah.
But yeah, it's really important to be able to identify, oh, something is happening to me, and what is it? If you can identify, okay, this what I'm thinking is not for me, but it's for someone else, then that's the first step of fixing it, let's say. And like you said, now you knew that you were trying to show that you were able to do something, and because of that, that your brain was like, oh no, that's not how it works. You need to deserve it. You need to train, and then maybe you get better, and then you won't even think about getting better. It will be just a byproduct of your training. But if you try to force it, then there'll always be resistance, always, because if your brain thinks you're not ready, if you unconsciously think you're not ready, you're going to sabotage yourself and like put yourself in a position where you're going to prove yourself that you're not ready. Always.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's like the story of my life. That's what.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, a lot of people would identify with that. Like me too. It's like, oh, I want to be able to do that, but I didn't put the hours for it. So realistically, I shouldn't think that I deserve it. But I'm like, I'm strong. But it doesn't work like this. Yeah. But yeah. So a lot of the teaching we do is this. But with the Esprit Concrete methods, one of the important part is the therapy part, because that's where the most of the work is done. So we try in the movement classes, to make it personalized. So we have several students, but the feedback they receive is different because they're different persons and they're working on different things for different reasons. And because of all these parameters, they can't have the same feedback. But even if they have the same feedback, it's not for the same reasons. But in the therapy, because it's one-on-one, then they can go deeper into how they perceive the instructions, how they were feeling, and what behavior they had because of all that. And that helps to accelerate, let's say, the improvement. So yeah, everything you said about the perception of self or others is 100% relevant to the work we do. And we had to do this work with me as well, because, like I said, I'm really lazy, and because of my my capacity, I had a really good capacity as training wise and strength and agility. So I was quite good and doing big moves. I think my fears were hiding behind that. It's like, oh, Yao is so great, but actually I wasn't targeting my fears or my weaknesses or anything that was setting me to be vulnerable. So for years, a lot of people were saying, oh, Yao is great, but they actually never saw me training. So I used to do like some big jump, but it wasn't like I was doing anything. And then when we started Esprit Concrete, actually, I realized that the work we were doing is what I needed. I always wanted to face my fear, understand my fears a bit more, and be able to not control, but not have to be a victim of the fears. It's like, okay, I understand I'm scared, but I know that I'm capable, so I can do it anyway. So that was my goal, and nothing I've done before. So the classes I did 8 years of parkour, to say, with Parkour Generations. and then we started Esprit Concrete. But I think my real training started when we started Esprit Concrete, because the rest was just smoke. Really, it wasn't relevant to what I needed.
Yeah, it's and that goes back to what you had talked about with walking down the sidewalk.
Yeah,
and having that perspective of, and doing what we know and what we're good at. So there's some things, one move that where my strength is and I'm good at, and I'll rely on that. And go to that one, go to that one.
That's it. Yeah.
But then the true, when I spar with my my teacher, he's it's like an art. And there is an element in there that is, it's not violent, it's not forceful. It's like flowing and dancing and doing all these different things, whereas me, it's just grunting and getting I know I can
trying to get the move, trying to get the exactly. That's what you're saying is exactly what I was saying. Actually, is like, if you focus on trying to get the armbar, then it's good. You have to like force it. But if you focus on, okay, how like just follow the movement and see what's going to happen, and if I get into that position, then something. It is an art. It is an art. Movement is an art in itself, but there's a lot of things that come in the way of that art, and most of it is really perception. All of it is perception. It's like, what you perceive your goal to be, and how have you been raised to react to that as well. So what is your perception and how you behave toward your perception. But the issue is that if we've been raised, I say if, but we've been all raised wrong, I think, because society doesn't have the best interest of the individual. So I think we've all been raised wrong, and getting away from these bad habits is quite hard. And if you have a habit that you have had your whole life, it's part of you, you think, it's like, oh, I do this. But maybe it's not helpful. But getting rid of it is quite a challenge. So even if people can see that what we're telling them is going to help them in the long term, there's always that need of instant gratification. Is like, oh, I am me, like the pride of I'm me and I have the right to be myself. But yourself is actually an accumulation of everything around you. It's food, it's what people tell you, it's the experience you lived. It's just an accumulation of everything around you. But if you change the direction of this accumulation towards something that's going to help you, then maybe you be open to more. But if you're fixated onto something that you already have, it's like possession. It's like, oh, it's mine. But you actually need to let go to be able to have more information. But yeah, and it's hard. It's a really hard process for everyone, even if you know that.
Yeah. What has your experience been watching people that you've worked with who have gone through this process, watching their evolution and working through some of the fears and some of their own barriers?
It varies a lot on people depending on their background. Actually, some people come to us not knowing that they have something stopping them from evolving. But they are really open-minded, so that makes the process quite fast. If someone is open-minded and can put themselves in question, it makes it a lot more effective, efficient than if not. So it's really the open-mindedness to feedback and criticism and opposition that changes things. So it's for us, I think it's been, I mean, for my teaching, it's been quite challenging, I would say, because of my personality. I'm quite there. I'm present, let's say. I'm loud, and people say I'm big. I don't think I'm big, but and I feel like I'm not erased, or I wasn't erased enough in the process to be just a catalyst. So my goal was, I want to be part of the process, but not be in the process, like a catalyst. So the catalyst is just there to accelerate the process. And then at the end, it still remains the catalyst, and you can use it for something else. But I think because of my personality, people perceive me in a certain way that stop them from actually doing the work for themselves. So this year, I've come out of a little bit from the coaching to let that happen. But yeah, it's been really mixed. I said there's been a lot of things. People discovering what they actually wanted during the class, and being like, oh, actually, I don't want this, and I'm going to stop. And then they change their life to something else. So this kind of thing is really uplifting for me, because I'm like, oh yeah, what we're doing is working. And even Georgia, I don't know if you know Georgia Monroe. So we trained her, and she was doing a lot of parkour. We got her to do like more videos and teaching the classes, get her coaching qualification. But so she got to a point where she realized actually what she wanted to do is stunt. So we got her involved with stunt people and activities, and now she's actually doing stunt for several movies, like big movies, Disney stuff. And now, so yes, we lost a good teacher, but she's doing what she wants. So that's our goal. So our goal is to help people get to where they want faster. And yeah, it's a gratifying thing to know that your input has helped someone get closer to their potential. So yeah, but it's very, very, it varied a lot from people to people. It's yeah, it's a really rocky road.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're very conscious of your role as a teacher and how you may be perceived. And if I'm understanding correctly, when people sort of project onto you a certain thing, and because sometimes we can tend to, I don't know if this is the case, we can tend to sort of put the teacher on a sort of a pedestal and not really fulfill like what we are meant to be doing ourselves.
Yeah, and as well for parkour, it's really easy for it to become a cult, knowing that I'm going to go see this great teacher that's going to save my life and things like this. But because of that, people usually tend to stop doing the work, and it becomes just another habit that they have. It's like, I'm going to go to the class and do the thing I do, and then come back and finish and resume reliving my life. But yeah, we really don't want this in at Esprit Concrete. So we remind people that if they want to change, they are the one to make it, and the coach is just another tool. Like the movement is, the coach is just another tool for success, let's say.
So they don't turn it into another normal sidewalk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's it would be it happens sometimes, but it is sad, but it is actually reality. And I know a lot of things that happened in the previous company I was in that like reinforced that. But yeah, And we try to eliminate that in Esprit Concrete and get people to be okay doing the hard work, let's say.
Yeah. And it sounds like the hard work is involves facing those fears and doing something new in a way, like challenging yourself. And,
the relation to fear is interesting, I think, because everyone is supposed to be scared. So if you're not scared, then there's a problem. Usually people give you medication if you're not scared in general. So we are supposed to be scared. But the issue is when people use this fear for the wrong reason, the fear that the reason that don't help them. There's a lot of gain to have by acknowledging fear and understanding it. If you understand your fear, then it's not a fear anymore. It's just an information, let's say. So yeah, relation to fear is quite a long discussion, I would say. And how people interpret fear is, and I think it's becoming worse as well with the new generations of people coming. I wouldn't say the parkour practitioner, because actually we're not really teaching parkour people. We're not teaching even sporty people. We're teaching like everyone, any lambda practitioner that want to become better. Like the young one, their relation to fear is masked with fear itself. So it's like they have to perform at a certain level, and because this is the normal now, the norm, they can't allow themselves to think that they can be scared. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
So it makes it even harder for them to progress, because fear is not part of the equation. It's like, others are scared. I'm not. That's not possible. And then where do you go from that? So for this kind of stuff, we need to make them experience fear and acknowledge it first, and then we can do the work, for example. But it varies from people to people. There's a lot to say about everything, actually. What I said to people about fear is, the more you know what you're scared of, the less you'll be scared of. In one of the school, we had a group of girls taking the class. So I asked them if they were scared of spiders, and they all started screaming and everything. So I said, okay, for next time, try to get as much information as you can of spiders. It was last week, so I don't have their response yet. As much as you can on spiders, and see if you can find some part of it that you like or that you respect. And then I'll see you next week. Maybe I'll give you an update on that. The more information you have, the less scared you are. That's for everything.
That reminds me of 3 years ago. I was in Australia, and I was in a animal park, and they had a huge snake. All my information of snakes have been from television.
That doesn't help.
But to go up to it and touch it and you feel it, it was really an extraordinary experience, because I had learned all this secondhand information, which didn't matter now. I was here, and you can feel it, and it felt like the most incredible, beautiful animal. My knowledge of it had dispelled all of these foreign ideas that had been implanted into me, I guess, from the day that I was born.
Definitely. And I actually had a similar experience, but in reverse. So So we were, what was I? In in the sea somewhere, and then I was feeling like little bites on my legs, and I was like, "What is that?" And it was like a little fish that was trying to eat me. It was just tasting. So, and then people say, "Oh yeah, that's what they do. They taste to see if they can eat its food." So then I was like, "But maybe." So if this one with a small mouth and no teeth is tasting to see, what if the shark is doing the same thing? So it's just tasting. So it's not a bad animal. It's just like, oh, can I eat that? And then so I was like, oh my god, maybe sharks are actually friendly. Yes, it's like that helps to make your perception of things, like it expands your perception. It's like, okay, maybe I need to review my knowledge of this. And once you review your knowledge, then you expand your knowledge, and then something else will come. Like, oh, what if actually this is not true? What I've been told all my life, and yeah, and for this kind of stuff, actually, there's a lot of knowledge in movies about. I wouldn't say in movies. I would say in the Matrix about expanding your perception. I use the Matrix a lot in my teaching because they had so much truth going on, and it was linked so much to psychology that I was like, oh wow, that's a piece of gold. This movie was incredible, and it's like someone reminded me of the blue pill and the red pill, and they were like, oh yeah, you need to choose your thing. But then I was thinking that's not true. There's no blue pill and red pill. The pills are the same colors. It's just you deciding what effect they're going to have on you. Mm-hmm. And then they were like, oh, okay, so I'm in charge. Yes, exactly. And then from there, they were like, okay, I need to decide to do it or not. Yeah, so you decide which pill is going to blue and which pill is going to be blue and which pill is going to be red, and then here, take it and then enjoy it. And for me, that was explaining as well the effect of placebo. Placebo is just you believing something is working, and then it works. It's like, wow, it's like magic. So yeah, we use that a lot. I mean, I use that a lot. Placebo and the quantum mechanics. Do you know the double slit experiment?
Yes.
Where if you try to observe particles, you're going to see particles. And if you try to observe a wave, you're going to see a wave. It's like, all right, which one is it? It's like, I've decided what I want to see. So yeah, it's going to happen. And that comes back to what I was saying earlier. It's like, if you believe something, then your body is going to tend to make it right. So yeah, everything is like a roundabout of information. It's like it comes from here and then it's going to go back there at some point. So yeah, that's why I love what we're doing, because the movement becomes so irrelevant once you have all this knowledge that you could gain, that will open your eyes to something more than movement, and because of that, your movement is going to become great. So yeah, it's quite exciting, I think, what we're doing, and I'm happy to be excited by what I'm doing. So yeah.
So yeah, are we creating our own reality by our thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. I think like I compare individuals to machines. So to a computer. So we all have a program. So I have several examples. So we all have a way to treat information, and it's always different from people to people. But we all have a way to treat information, and if we update the component and we don't update the software, then it's not going to work well. And if we update the software and we don't update the component, it's not going to work well. So so the information comes from the eyes, all the senses and stuff like this, and then the brain processes it. there's a way that is common to everyone, that like movies or politicians or great talker, like people who do great talk, knows how to tap in. And because of that, it's really easy to influence us as people. Even if you think that, oh no, I'm a free thinker, my mind is quite strong. You've been influenced by something. Like that's not a choice. But then knowing what influences us is the key to be able to have a little control about this. And this goes back to what I was saying about freedom is knowledge. So you can't take a real decision if you don't know what that decision is. And most of the information we have is not a decision that we have. It's just people. It's just like TV. It's something happening outside. People talking to you, and you not knowing how you interpret this information. So how do I process what's coming up to me? So this is really like you're a victim of the world. But yeah, I'm not going to dramatize too much. You're a victim of the world, but you can gain knowledge to be able to be active in the process of telling yourself what is happening. So you can gain freedom, but I think it's really hard.
Yeah. So I like the computer analogy.
Yeah.
So it's like when you turn on the computer, there's a certain program running, and it's just going to do it on automatic.
Yeah, that's it. It's in the background always.
Reactive. And you do the certain things, and it's you're not thinking about. Yeah. But finding, and in that way, it does feel like a difficult thing, because first you got, if you're lucky, you have a little bit of awareness of, this is my automatic thing, and then you can begin to question and
then change the firmware and stuff like this. So but and that's the I think I've seen it a lot now, like the kids, so the new babies, the babies that are born, they look really aware, and like at birth, like I've seen like at least 10 babies, they look like they're present when you talk to them. They're like, oh yeah, they're listening. And I think that this generation is going to be very enlightened, I would say, compared to the previous one. But knowing how you work, what is the background process doing, is like being gifted with secret of life, let's say, for now, let's say, because then this gift is going to evolve into something else, and the next generation are going to have even more. I don't think that we, like, even if I'm trying to be aware of how I function, I don't think I have the hardware to understand it. I think I ask the questions, but I don't have the capacity to understand, oh, I function like this, like this, like this. Maybe someone else is going to come and tell me, oh, you do this, you do this. Like that's the beauty of having feedback, because we work differently, we can point out stuff that's happening. But in maybe 2 generations, 50 years, maybe the kids will be like, oh yeah, actually, I understand this, and they'll have the hardware to think of this. But I think it has to move as a society. The more people think away, the more the hardware is going to update, because everything is based on physical everything. Thinking is physical, like everything. Light is physical, everything. So if it's not based physically, it doesn't appear anywhere. So I'm hopeful. Like my son is going to be great at knowing how it works, how he works. Hopefully, But the thing we're doing in in our classes is really education. It's not trying to get people to move better or to know a certain move. Is really educating them to have a knowledge of themselves. But yeah, and yeah, I think we're doing okay job. Let's say. Yeah.
Have there been people who've come to you from, I'm sure there has been, from different fields, writers, creative people from different fields, who've come to you so they can find new ways of expressing themselves in their own particular field?
Yeah, we had a lot of artists, like dancers or circus artists coming to us. We had a business school that we do a workshop every year, because the way we work is applicable to everything. I don't know if you read Castory thesis. It's a thesis on lack of progression, using parkour as a base, and like lack of progression in parkour. And she talks about a lot of the things I'm talking about, but a bit more psychology driven. And we use this, so our company and the way we teach is linked to that thesis. But then that thesis and the way we train, and I train, but then we can apply it to everything. So we had a lot of dancers. I don't think we had writers, but yeah, dancers and circus artists, athletes as well, coming to us. So the so the way we work is like we help people focus more, I would say, and not because burning out is just, I can't cope with what is happening to me. So like if they manage to focus more on whatever they want to do or whatever they're doing, then it's more manageable. So that's the thing. We try to get them to manage the stress, the expectation from outside or themselves, and the way they interpret things as well. So yeah, you really can apply it to anyone, to be honest. Yeah, and every like a company or an individual. We did as well, how it's called, a group retreat for a company to get them to work better together, but still think themselves as individual, and how to help the group using the individuality of the group. So yeah, it's quite broad, let's say.
And is the company just based in the UK, or is it spread around?
So we are based in the UK, but we do workshop everywhere. So we work with people from Seattle, people from India, Singapore, France, Germany, and then we have some project as well from Kenya, Kenya, Bangladesh, and Palestine. So we'll see how it goes in the future. But we have, yeah, it's everywhere. We do workshop everywhere, and we work with anyone really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but our main public is, I mean, it's open to everyone, but we try to target the people who are at risk with the mental health, and who don't have the capacity to pay for a class, for example. So we trying to change the company a little bit now, so we can still live from it, but give a cheaper or more accessible service to our user. basically. So hopefully in a month or two, we're going to announce the restructuration and get the ball going even faster and better than it was before.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the company is S3 Concrete. Yeah, if it wasn't clear. But yeah.
What role does in fact that's maybe not the best term, love and your movement and what you do?
Love in movement?
Yes, in what you do especially.
Ooh, for me, personally, I don't think I love the movement I do. So I never liked parkour, to say. It was difficult to do it and to get myself to do it. But I do it because I know I'm gaining a lot from it. So loving the movement, that's not for me. I don't really enjoy the movement side of it, but I know that it's the best thing I could do to gain whatever I need. What I like is I like playing basketball. I used to do taekwondo, but I realized with the taekwondo, it's not really the movement either that I liked. I liked being with my crew, let's say, with the club. Yeah, at some point as well, I used to do a lot of grappling after the training with my friend, and I love that. But for parkour, it's a bit mixed. There are some stuff that I like walking on the rail. I find that magic. It's like, oh, I can stand on the rail and then walk like if it was normal. So I find that magical. And yeah, that's it really. I don't like too much the movement side of it, let's say, which is weird because that's what I'm teaching. So, like, all right, let's do this. But yeah, you do it. I just watch you from far. But yeah. So, but my mentality as teaching is like really I need to be invisible in the process. So I don't want my student to get my fears, for example. I don't want them to get my dislike. So I shouldn't be part of their fears. So when I teach, I'm in superhero mode. I can do everything because that's what I want them to aspire for. But when I train for myself, I'm like, it's okay. I'm just going to do this once and then, yeah, I change. But yeah, it's contradictory, but I think it makes sense for me because really what I wanted from this movement is not movement, is it's addressing what I didn't like and what I didn't have, and it's doing that perfectly.
How much does or when I say the word, like words like meditation, being present, what does that bring up for you in your life?
So for me, definitions are really important because I notice the way I speak to be understood. So I need to, if someone is saying something, I need to understand what they mean. And usually when people say meditation, they think about someone sitting and trying to close their eyes and like being static. The way I use meditation is deep focus. So for me, meditating meaning you're focusing on a task. It can be not moving or walking on the rail or trying to do as many push-ups as you can. For me, it's like a deep focus. If you're focused, then you're meditating. And how much I promote it, I think I promote it a lot, this kind of meditation, because I think to be able to know what you want, you need to be able to get into that state of deep focus, and not be swayed by anything that is going around you. So if you're 2 meters or 3 meters on the rail balancing and everything can take your attention, then you're in danger. But if you're focused on what you're doing, then you're probably going to be a lot safer than if you were distracted. So for me, that's the meditation. I don't think a lot of people take it as this, but that's how I see meditation. Yeah.
But in that deep focus you're talking about, being present, sounds completely like meditation to me. Yeah. And I guess you can take that into whatever endeavor you're doing. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, definitely. So I talked a little bit about the way I speak. I try as well to have the most truthful statement. So that means when I talk in the class a bit more than in life, I try to say something that is going to be true for everything. And if it's not true, I like to be specific and say, okay, this applies for that, because nothing is true for everything. That's not possible. So I can give you an example. Do you know what temperature water boil?
Yes.
What is it?
Is it 100?
Okay, what do you think, Ade?
What temperature does water boil?
Yeah. You're probably in Fahrenheit. I don't know.
Yeah, Fahrenheit.
I don't know how much it is.
Yeah,
it's a little bit higher.
I would say 180.
Okay, all right. But you're both right, but you're both wrong at the same time. So if you put water in a glass and you reduce the atmospheric pressure, then it can boil like room temperature.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can boil at every temperature you want. But the general truth, because we are at room temperature, but the pressure is this, it's 100 degrees. So that's why like every statement can tend to be true, but it's never going to be true for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that's how I see things.
Again, at that training session I went to, and I've seen from your videos, community seems very important to you. And Ade talks about it a lot. Can you talk about a community?
Okay. So community is we're trying to get the community as 1 + 1. So one individual bring another with another individual is a community. So start with 2, because the way we've noticed community being is the community overrule the identity of one person. So we try to get the opposite. It's like the individual is part of the community, not the community has individuals in it. And the way we do that is by empowering people and then encouraging them to go towards outside. Because it's easy to be empowered, but stay like really close to me. And my like, once you discover your power, you want to like express it and be, I'm all powerful and everything's going to be subject to my power. But what we're trying to do is get everyone to share their power, and then we grow as individual, and the community is growing because you grow as an individual. So we had an event that is called Les Dames du Mouvement. It was event for women and LGBTQ, to get people who are not really represented in parkour to have a structured session first with us. So on Saturday we have structured classes, and then on Sunday we invite all the community, everyone that does parkour, to join us and have these people who are not represented take part in a community jam. So have people that are more experienced or that started for the first time, male, female, whatever, and take part in this thing to see that what you learn, you can apply it even if others are around you. And maybe what you learn, you can help someone else that's maybe more experienced but doesn't have that kind of experience. So it's really individual lifting others that makes a community, because we all have experience in some ways. And because we all have experience in some way, we can all gain from each other. It's really simple. I think it's really simple, but maybe it hasn't been done this way before. So, yeah. So that's what we think the community is or should be.
Yeah. I like that idea of, and I think it's really important to empower the individual and for the individual to be their authentic self. And part of that community seems to be, as you said, being open to another perspective, another world, constructive criticism, another way of looking at things. Same as our relationship with our environment. So it sounds like that's part of what you do. It seems as well is relating to that wall in a different way. Whoever thought a wall could teach us something?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And so Castry talks about it a little bit in a thesis, but the wall and the environment could represent the people. So how do you meet and greet someone? So how do you meet and greet the wall? Are you the type of being aggressive, like you impose your presence, or are you the type to be shy and be like, okay, the wall is the whole like the whole thing, and then you like shy toward the wall? So like your personality will be reflected on this, like in the way that you talk to people or are in a group setting with this wall. So the wall represents a lot of things, not just the wall, but the obstacle, let's say. Can be a gap, can be a rail, and most often in society, out of parkour, it can be another person or an institution. So yeah, it's this relationship is really important. Yeah, and we try to highlight it as much as possible. Yeah.
I love that statement. How you meet and greet the wall, how you meet, and it will affect how you meet and greet the tree, the flower, the other person, and how simple but how revolutionary that can be.
Yeah, it is. It's it's for us, for me, it's really apparent that you carry your personality everywhere you go. But for a lot of people, it is a surprise that things repeat in their lives. It's like, for example, you're going to say, all my girlfriends were treating me in that way. And then you're thinking like something is wrong with them. But maybe, maybe there's something I'm doing that get them to react in that way. So it's kind of the same thing. It's really representational. And why parkour is good or art du déplacement is good is because you're less likely to hurt a wall while jumping on it than hurt someone by trying things that is linked to that, or someone or yourself. if you have a cut shin, it will heal without you being too much traumatized. If someone hurt you in real life, maybe you're going to have a trauma from it. So it's a safer environment to try behavior and strategy using the walls and the rails and the obstacles than doing it in society. That's why we do that. So yeah, we try to get people to understand you carry your personality with you. How are you applying this? You doing this? How can you change to make it better and more viable for yourself and others in the same time? But yeah.
Yeah, because I think that is what, well, not I think, that's what I was kind of alluding to when I meant the love of it. Not the movement itself, but the underlying of how you grew that wall, there's an understanding of connection, isn't there?
Okay.
And I guess that is the love I was referring to.
Okay, all right, I get it. Yeah. So we don't talk about love, to be honest. We talk about respect and consent. So respect and consent are really powerful because if you can respect yourself first and then respect others, then there'll be a lot less issues in general. So respect starts with the basic needs. It's like, do you eat enough? Do you clean? Do you exercise? Do you socialize? And then you can go up to like, what do you do for others? But it starts with this, like, how much respect do you have for yourself? If it's really low, then you might be depressive, and then we can talk about it. So we do the exercise, but you probably need to go into talking to a professional therapist or someone that could guide you with professional content, because that can be a little bit more risky. But yeah, love, I think is it's hard to talk about it because it can be everything. It's like people talk a lot about having fun, but you can have fun doing the wrong things. So yeah, we talk more about respect because it's understood values of not harming and not and not overpowering, kind of. It's like respect is kind of a balanced feeling, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I understand what you mean. Yeah. So yeah, we do that.
So we are about an hour and 30 something minutes in.
Yeah, that went fast.
Yeah,
that was really
been
quick.
A great conversation. Ron, did you have any other questions or?
I've got a zillion questions which I've been writing down. Yao is a one-person quote machine, I think.
Man.
So Yao, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you.
Yeah, thank you. It was
really love
nice,
how open you were talking about it. And what you're talking about is we can attribute to whatever you're doing in your life to take us forward and the way you look at things. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
I have two quotes that I use in my classes that I want to leave with you guys. One is a quote and the other one is a strategy that could help people. So the first one is, if it's not focused, it's bogus. Meaning, if you don't intend to do it and it happened, then it's probably just luck. And the second one is a strategy that I teach in the class. It's I call it yes and no but. So yes means you can do it. then you try to add value into it. No means you can't do it, then you try to do something that is similar. That's the strategy that I give my student for training. It's like, can you do this jump? No, but I can do something a little bit smaller. Or can you do the jump? Yes, and I'm going to do a flip at the end. So you always progress from whatever state you are. And I think that helped me to improve quickly. And I hope like some people could take it from watching your podcast, guys. So yeah,
Great.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And
it was really fun. It went really fast.
And where can people get in touch with you if they wanted to find out more?
So the best is Esprit Concrete. You can contact me on Facebook or Instagram, but the best is to contact Esprit Concrete. It's contact@espritconcrete.com.
Okay.
Yeah, it's quite simple.
Okay.
And they can see it on my page if they need to.
And one last question before we go. Did you learn to control electricity?
Not yet, but I think wait. I think there's something really strange that happens. Like each time it's been like this month it's been like 4 times. Like the cash machine in the restaurant doesn't work. Like when they come with the bank thing, like it stopped. So maybe there's something there. Like I'm a EMP. I'm working on it.
Okay, well, you make sure to update us.
Yeah, no problem. All right, thank you guys.
Very much.
It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, same here.
Yeah, good luck for the future.
Yeah. Thank you, Yao.
Yeah,
thank you to our viewers. Thanks for everyone for joining. And this will also be on YouTube, so we're gonna we'll send you the link and everything.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
See you guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.